people say that God saved me in order to save America. Many, many people are saying that. And with your help, we will fulfill that extraordinary mission together. We're going to save our country. But many, many people have said that. To every citizen across this land, I am asking for the honor of your vote. I don't want your money. I don't want anything. I just want your vote. We are on the 5-yard line. I would actually say we're on the 1-yard line, if you want to really know the thing. And some of the, oh, that's a lot of fake news back there. Look at that. You know, for a person that they hate, they sure do show up, right? Man. That's a big group of people. Some are actually good, and some are just absolutely terrible. All right, thank you for being here. It shows that ratings are more important than hatred. I've always said that. As your president, I will fight for you every single day with every breath in my body. I will fight. Together we will save this country. We will defeat the corrupt system in Washington, and America's future will be an absolutely incredible one. That's what it is. But we got to start immediately. It can't wait any longer. It's not going to be possible. This is all you really need to know. It's simple, not particularly beautiful as a statement, but very simple. It's Kamala broke it. I will fix it. Thank you. And I don't know if you know, but Kamala has a little rally going on. And when I say little, I mean little. It's a competing rally. It's not this giant place that's sold out. What a beautiful, this is a beautiful place. But, and it's quite embarrassing. It's all over the internet. She's screaming. And the people, it's about 100 people, they're not moving. They just want to go home, just be done with it. It's not quite this. You see the front row? You have a lot of front row Joes. We have more front row Joes here than she's got at her big rally. This was the big one. No, it's a whole host. She tried to get stars to come in, and they wouldn't do it, actually. She'd go and get Beyonce. No. Beyonce would come in. Everyone's expecting a couple of songs. And there were no songs. There was no happiness. It's just like, give me my check. I want to get out of here. But you always put the star. She should have learned this from Crooked Hillary. Always put the star after you. That way the people stay. Finish your speech. Let the star, and even if she doesn't sing, they booed like hell, but the press didn't play that. They booed both of them the hell out of the stadium. But you know what? Even though the act was terrible, it's like by that time you're out of the building, like Elvis had left the building. Elvis has left the building. Now it's terrible. They obviously forgot to get a star tonight, but we don't need a star. We don't need stars. I never had a star. No. We don't need a star. Just to bring it back into seriousness. We don't need a star because we have policy. We have great policy. We have great policy. No, we do have great policy. Look, they have horrible policy. They've got a machine that's incredible. They've got a vicious, horrible, horrible group of people, a machine where they can have open borders and let people pour into the country. They can have transgender operations at any age, anytime you want. They can be pushing men playing in women's sports. And because she's just a vessel, and Joe Biden was just a vessel, it's a group of very powerful people that are probably people that hate our country and they want to destroy our country. Somebody said, are they dumb? Well, who would have these? It's embarrassing when I say, we will keep men out of women's sports. I'm saying, can you imagine saying that 10 years ago? They'd say, this guy's cracked up. This guy's crazy. Who the hell's going to have men playing? Did you see the Olympic boxing where two people who transitioned? They transitioned from men to women and just a light jab. That was the end of that one. You know, a jab, for those that don't know, but that's just sort of like a defensive punch. And the young lady who's a champion walked back to the court. She was from Italy, beautiful young lady, which I'm not allowed to say. You can't say beautiful, so I'll take beautiful. But she was a beautiful young. In politics, you're not allowed to call a woman beautiful anymore. It's the end of your career. So please delete the word beautiful. Thank you very much. Well, 60 Minutes deleted the whole damn answer. What? So I'm allowed to do that, aren't I, Susan Wiles? But America will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. True. Tomorrow you have to stand up and tell Kamala that you've had enough, you can't take it anymore. She's the least talented person we've ever seen in government. She allowed our borders to be open. She's allowed bad things to happen. She allowed a man who was grossly incompetent to remain in the most important position of any country in the world when they're talking nuclear weapons and they're talking wars. And she still says, oh, no, I didn't notice anything wrong. If she didn't notice anything wrong, then she's got a bigger problem than he has. So we don't like it, Kamala. We don't like what you've done. You're the worst vice president in history. He's the worst president in history. Kamala, you're fired. Get out. Get out. You're fired. Right? See, I consider all those guys back there with the big muscles, and it's not my thing, but I consider them really beautiful to me. They're beautiful people, and they are productive people. They make our country work and run. They built our country. They did. And then you had stupid politicians that let them down. And those companies got taken out of Pittsburgh and every place else, like you take candy away from a baby. But now we have the exact opposite. If we win Pennsylvania, we will win the whole thing. It's very simple. And I do believe it is, I say you have to make, I do believe it is too big to rig. I think it's too big to rig. They'll try. And they are trying, you know, though. It's too big to rig. This is a big movement. This is, you know, we did great in 2016. We did much better in 2020, but a lot of bad things happened. He turned out to be a brilliant candidate from his basement that nobody ever heard. No, this is that big, powerful, vicious party of them. No, that's a vicious machine. I mean, they can take all these bad ideas and win elections. It's like there's only way you could do that. One way. There's only one way. But you know what it did teach us? In one way, it was good because it taught us how bad a communist philosophy is, how bad a Marxist philosophy, how bad all of this stuff is. And we'll really be able to get our country back the way it should be. It's much easier because you're going to realize how bad it is. It's just what's happening when we go over the economy and the economic numbers over the last week. It's Herbert Hoover stuff, and I never wanted to be Herbert Hoover. Let me just tell you, the one president I didn't, and there was some that I wouldn't want to either, but in particular because I'm very good at business. I've always been good at business. They're starting to realize that. Those guys back there, they wanted me to be bad, so bad. But now they're saying, this guy's shit, man. He's made a lot. But listen, so, and if I'm not good enough, Elon Musk is good enough because he is working so hard. Elon with that rocket. Think of that rocket 2 weeks ago coming down and those engines are blasting. And I said, man, a few days ago it left. It was a beautiful crystal white. Now it's all like fire blazing. They know about that. Like it went through a steel furnace, by the way, but that's what it did. 10,000 degrees coming down at like 20,000 miles an hour. So think of it, a car's going 90, you're going, this is like 20,000 miles coming down, 22-story building. Then it stops, starts flipping around, starts finding this crazy site in the middle of wherever it was. And I told this story, I hope I don't bore you with it, but I had this guy on the phone. I told it at another rally, and I don't want to bore. Did anybody hear this story? Should I tell it again? It's quick. I hate to tell it again. I hate to double up, but this is sort of... So I'm talking to this guy, one of the most important people in the nation, in his mind, only in his mind. And because I was president, and they say most likely, like about a 96.2% chance. Well, we can't remember. If you remember 2016, I was given a 3% chance of winning. And then I won Florida, and it went to, think of it. So she was at 97, and I was at 3. Then I won Florida. She went down to 92. Then I won Georgia. Then I won North Carolina. Then I won South Carolina. Then I ran the whole East Coast. And then people started going crazy. Remember the woman with the glasses and that big head of hair? She was screaming. I said to my beautiful wife, why is she screaming? We're going to make America great. Why is she screaming? But she was not too happy. I wonder whatever happened to that woman. She became famous. They were going crazy. Then she had a 55% chance. Then it was a 49%. They weren't crazy. But that was something. So based on what I'm hearing, he's at, right now, 4%. She's at 4%. And so we never want to take anything for granted. But we're really doing well. If you vote, here's the story. We have the ball. It's ours to win. The only thing I ask is that you go out and vote. Because if you vote, we're going to win. And believe the fake news when they say, this is going to be tight. It's really not tight. But they want to do that because they want to get ratings. They want everybody to watch. But you got to do this. You got to just forget those people because they don't tell the truth, okay? No. Well, actually, I didn't even correct him because it's actually better if let everyone think it's going to be tight as hell. But whether it is or not doesn't matter. You have to go out and we have to swamp them. Everybody's got to vote.
Donald Trump there at a rally in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania tonight on this election eve. And he talked about a number of things here, saying Kamala broke it. I will fix it. At one point, he looked directly at the camera and said, Kamala, you are the worst VP in history. He's the worst president in history. Kamala, you are fired. Get out. He described to those in attendance that he will rescue the American dream. He said that we will launch the most extraordinary economic boom this world will ever see. And joining us now at that rally, Mary Alice Parks, there in Pittsburgh. Mary Alice, break down what we've been hearing tonight.
Yeah, Linsey, it's a little bit hard to hear you. It's louder. It's both loud in here and then goes quiet. Look, this is a crowd full of Donald Trump's fervent supporters. When he came on stage, I saw grown men near tears, excited to see the former president, veterans standing on chairs, saluting the former president. This is a crowd that is excited to vote for him, many telling me that they have already voted for him. You know, the speech has been largely focused on him, light on policy, light on issues, like has been the case with the majority of his rallies and speeches the last few days and weeks. He used language like, I will restore peace in the world, I will rescue the American dream. He said he was surprised in the last few days to hear that people are still concerned about the price of groceries. Of course, we're not surprised to hear that. Voters tell us that every day. Look, his longest, I would sort of say, issue conversation was around the idea of transgender Americans. Look, this has been a major part of this campaign. We've talked about the economy, we've talked about immigration, but we know in this final stretch, his team has been absolutely hitting the airwaves with ads about being very sort of anti-trans, hitting this idea about men playing in women's sports. It was his first policy issue that he talked about tonight, and that stood out to me because it's not exactly one that we often talk about, like the economy, like immigration, but it was a topic hit over and over by every single speaker before he took the stage and by the former president himself, Linsey.
And talk about the significance. I mean, we've been mentioning Pennsylvania for several months now, and just how important the Keystone State is. Of course, both candidates paying a lot of attention to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It is the biggest of the battleground states. Arguably, whoever wins here will win the whole thing. But that's also because of what it would mean for Vice President Harris. Look, if she wins Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania and holds that one blue dot in Nebraska, that's 270. That's enough. Just barely enough. That's the magic number, but that's enough. And so, look, the former president knows that if he can flip this state, he really disrupts her easiest path to victory. And look, this is not only, I would say, sort of the biggest state in terms of the Electoral College, but also such a range of voters. I mean, we think about Pittsburgh, union workers, the Steel City, manufacturing. We think about the middle of the state, much more rural. I mean, there's that old joke that Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh and Philadelphia with Alabama in between. Philadelphia, the sort of, obviously the historic significance for our country, but also a really, frankly, blue stronghold with a lot of young voters, more diverse voters, college-educated voters. So I think that part of it, too, is not only just the Electoral College significance, I mean, what it would make for both of them as they try to reach 270, what it would mean for getting both of them to the White House, but also they believe that if they can speak to the range of voters in Pennsylvania, then they are speaking to the range of voters across the country, Linsey.
And also, Mary Alice, Trump is hearkening back to his last rally of the 2016 campaign with his next and final stop, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And I said to him, fellas,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be in Michigan, like I said, they're trying to break that so-called blue wall. I mean, we have seen these two candidates hopscotch around these same 7 states for the last several weeks. Michigan would be a huge win for former President Trump. Of course, he won there in 2016, but then lost pretty significantly in 2020. You know, one of the ways that the President Biden was able to flip Michigan back blue was by really running up the score in places like Detroit. Being in Grand Rapids, it's a different kind of Michigan voter. But again, talking to union voters, talking to those that care about manufacturing in this country, and former President Trump trying to, once again, sort of break apart what has so long and so historically been a stronghold for Democrats, the Democratic Party. And of course, we know that often, historically, Michigan and Wisconsin vote together. And so, of course, Democrats are hoping that that's true again this year, but Republicans are as well, that it will that sort of upper Midwest, will that Rust Belt part of this country move one way or the other in this race? We don't know for sure, but both candidates counting on that.
Yeah, the Sun Belt, the Rust Belt, and Pennsylvania. So many people eager to see what happens, in particular with those 7 battleground states tomorrow. Mary Alice Parks, our thanks to you. As we've been reporting, the campaign season has seen an extraordinary level of threats against polling sites and election workers. We're just getting new video of that ballot box explosion in Washington state. You can see a car driving up, and a short time later, the ballot box explodes. The FBI is leading the investigation. Officials are working to make sure affected voters can resubmit their ballots. And the FBI received more than 2,000 threats against election workers since the 2020 election. Officials are preparing for a wave of misinformation within the next 24 hours. Joining us now is the head of the Brennan Center for Justice, Michael Waldman. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. First, let's just talk about the civic exercise of voting. What do you make of the 80 million Americans who've already voted early?
Well, people are eager to participate. People are eager to have their voices heard. And people are taking advantage of these new ways to vote, early voting in particular. But that still means a lot of people are going to have that time-honored sort of civic ritual of showing up on Election Day. You know, this compressed campaign with only 3 months where Vice President Harris has been the nominee actually has made it more exciting, more like almost like a European campaign, snap election, than it would have been otherwise. And so we expect a very high turnout. And despite the intense and growing and far more organized threats to the election from the conspiracy theorists and the election deniers, the system is much stronger than it was 4 years ago. There are new laws. Law enforcement is very involved in protecting polling places, and Americans should have very little difficulty voting tomorrow in a way that is calm, probably uneventful, and secure.
That said, how do you think the elections are going so far? Because, of course, we started out this segment with you showing the video of those ballots exploding, so people see things like that and think, oh, that must be happening everywhere. So, by and large, do you feel like things are going smoothly?
Overwhelmingly smoothly, yes. It's important for all of us to not overreact to one, cell phone video of a bombing of a Dropbox somewhere. That's exactly what the conspiracy theorists want us to do. What I'm more worried about is what comes after the election, because Donald Trump and others have said, well, the only way he can lose is if there's massive cheating. And already it appears that Russia and others are pumping disinformation into the system, and we can expect a lot of fake videos, deep fakes, a lot of lies coming not before the voting, but after. It's really important we remember it's going to take a few days to count the votes. That doesn't mean it's a problem. It doesn't mean there's fraud. It just means that the public servants who run the elections are doing their job conscientiously.
So if you were a betting man, when do you think that we might be able to determine who has won this election? And I'm asking that based on when you think we're going to start getting those results in, because a number of the states, including Pennsylvania, they're saying that they have newer, faster equipment and that they could very well have their results by Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning.
So it varies state by state, and it really would be better if all states were as fast as they could be. Michigan and North Carolina, among these swing states, are likely to come in early. Pennsylvania did not change its law to make it so they could start counting absentee ballots before Election Day. They do have new equipment, and that should make a difference. Again, we're not going to know the results. We have heard already that Donald Trump is going to claim victory tomorrow night, just as he did in 2020, before the votes are counted. And so whenever we hear him or any other candidate claiming victory before the votes have been counted, know that it's basically, it's not real. It's not on the level. And that's part of the disinformation we all have to kind of have our guard against.
Brennan Center head Michael Waldman, we thank you so much for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joining us now, Michael Tyler, Communications Director for the Harris-Walz campaign. 24 hours to go. How are you feeling tonight?
thank you so much for having me. 24 hours ago, and we're feeling really good. We're obviously here in Philadelphia tonight to close out the campaign. But as you know, the vice president and the governor have both been crisscrossing all the battleground states here in the final stretch of this campaign, making sure that the voters that are going to decide this election know that they will have, if they vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, leadership in the White House that is focused on them, that is providing them solutions. So we feel good about where we are, but we're leaving nothing to chance. Just this past weekend, we knocked on over 3 million doors, 1.5 million doors right here in the state of Pennsylvania, making sure that we're reaching every single voter that we need to get to 270 electoral votes. So we feel good, but we're sprinting through the tape here between now and polls closing tomorrow night.
Curious if you just heard from our prior guest. He said that he fully expects that Donald Trump is going to declare victory before the votes have been tallied. What's the Harris campaign's response if that happens?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. We saw Donald Trump do that in 2020. Fully expect him to do the same in 2024. I think if you watch his behavior down the stretch of the final few days of this campaign, it's the language of a person who understands that he very well may lose this election. And so it's not going to be any surprise to us if come tomorrow night before votes are tallied, Donald Trump falsely tries to claim victory. But the problem for Donald Trump, if he tries that, is that he tried it in 20, it did not work. We know what his playbook is. We've got the rules, the legal at our disposal to push back against his nonsense. And in the United States of America, the voters decide who wins the presidency. It will be no different in 2024, and I think it's important that everybody watching understands that.
And if we still have you, what's the final message Vice President Harris will tell voters tonight and tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think our final message, frankly, is go vote, right? We spent a lot of time, this has been over a 100-day campaign. Vice President Harris is a prosecutor, has laid out her case. She's presented the evidence against Donald Trump. She made her closing argument beginning on the ellipse. She's going to do it once more here on the Rocky Steps here in Philadelphia, making sure that people understand that it comes January 20th, one of two people is going to walk into the Oval Office. It's either going to be Donald Trump with his enemies list in hand, or it's going to be Kamala Harris with her to-do list. So if you want a fighter who's going to get up every single day, focus on solutions that actually improve your lives, that of your family, your community, go to iwillvote.com, make a plan to vote before polls close tomorrow.
Now, Vice President Harris, as you know, was caught on the mic last weekend expressing some concern about getting enough of the mail vote. How has the campaign's messaging been tweaked to try to bring more men into the fold?
Yeah, listen, this campaign has been going everywhere, talking to every single voter, including men. In fact, I think there's only one candidate in the final stretch of this race that is actually speaking to the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations of men. That's Vice President Harris. That's why we put out an opportunity economy agenda that speaks directly to how we can grow small businesses in Black and Latino communities for Black and Latino men entrepreneurs. There's only one candidate that is actually focused on what men can achieve in her administration. That's Vice President Harris. The other guy, Donald Trump, his entire approach to this campaign has been about dividing communities, dividing us, whether it's based upon gender, whether it's based upon class, whether it's based upon race and ethnicity. That is his chief currency. On the other side, you have Vice President Harris, who's not focused on what separates us, but is focused on bringing people together and being a president for all Americans. That is the type of leadership that Americans, no matter who they are looking for. And that's why you see amongst all these late-breaking undecided voters, they continue to move towards Vice President Harris in the final stretch of this campaign. So that is our message in the final 24 hours of this race. It's a candidate who's actually thinking about you, your family, your community, who no matter what the issue is going to look for ways that we can bring people together to actually solve our problems.
All right, we're going to try and let you save your voice. Michael Tyler, Communications Director for the Harris-Walz campaign. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. Turning now to Arizona, Republicans